Good morning. Off and running. Just leaving camp now. Walking up a hill to get back to the trail. About 3/10 of a mile on a rooty, rocky side trail. Stayed at a shelter last night. First one in Maine. That's right, I'm in Maine. After the Maine state line, about a mile later, there's this nice lookout, or maybe half a mile later, nice view, which I showed on yesterday's video. And then after that was a shock. The trail goes steep down a cliff, basically, and it wasn't easy. I started to go the wrong direction. I mean, it's okay, so when I say wrong direction, not meaning there's only one direction. It's kind of like the Mahoosic Notch that's coming up today, where there's a couple different ways to do it. And there's just no way I could have put it on video for you all yesterday. I should have showed the aftermath of it, but it still wouldn't have showed you what it looked like from that direction until you're actually in it. But basically there's just a bunch of cracks and crevices that drop 10 to 15 feet. And you don't want to end up in one of those because you'll never get out and people might not see you. I mean, you could probably make noise, but if you're injured down there, that wouldn't be a good thing. So that was fun to end my day like yesterday. That took a few minutes to figure out, and barely could get my toe to reach the area I needed to. But the problem wasn't so much that the terrain or the cliff, whatever you want to call it. It was more that my body was tired and dehydrated, and I was, had my mind set on getting to the shelter. My hips started to cramp up on me when I was in there, and unfortunately I was in an area where I couldn't stretch it out and rub it or anything because I was all bunched up in a little crack, basically. So it was an experience and it was fun. Basically a taste. That and the other thing I crossed yesterday that was straight down the valley and then straight up, that there were no blazes, so you didn't really know where the trail went. This is my trail right now, by the way, just to get out of this shelter. So those two things were a sign of what's to come today with the Mahoosic Notch. It's going to be fun, I hope. It's going to be an experience for sure. And based on how slow I did those, it's going to be really slow. It's the slowest mile on the AT. People go anywhere from an hour, a little less than an hour, all the way to 4 hours I've seen to complete that 1 mile. Just because it's basically two mountains that push together and the valley in between and all the boulders and rocks from the mountains. And it's just a big jigsaw puzzle, basically. Tetris. It's like Tetris with somebody that doesn't know how to play Tetris, where everything is just in the wrong place and you have to figure out how to get through all of it. So that's what today has. We'll be summiting a few mountains before then, but that's about 6 miles away. I don't expect to go too far today, but who knows? Depends how early I get done or how quickly I get done with all that. That's about 6 miles away. And about, 9 or 10 miles by the time I'm to the next shelter that comes after. Because after you go through the Mahoosic Notch, you go over to Mahoosic Arm, which is a 1,500 mile straight up steep climb. So that one's supposed to be pretty tough as well. Basically, anything with the word Mahoosic in it seems to be tough. But that's okay. It's expected. And I'm 1,900 miles into this trail. It's going to be tough because it's supposed to be doing that. Getting close to the end, so it's fighting back, so to speak. But anyway, stayed at a shelter last night. First time I've actually slept in a shelter for a very long time. I didn't set up my tent. I just didn't feel like it. And it ended up being a really good call because it was pouring rain about 2 or 3 in the morning for several hours. The good thing is I got out of the way, and it's supposed to be clear today and the next couple days. So hopefully it's real cloudy right now, but I think that's supposed to clear out too. But as long as it doesn't rain, I'm happy. Unfortunately, the rocks are going to be somewhat slick today even more than usual because of that good amount of rain last night. But I've babbled long enough. I can't believe I'm doing this and not too out of breath as I'm talking. It's a lot of words and a lot of climbing I'm doing here. But anyway, back to the trail, back to the first few summits and the Mahoosic Notch. I'm coming for you. Actually, a couple other things I did want to mention. So yesterday, took one fall right on my right hip, took another fall in a mud puddle where it like ate my foot. Just the mud wrapped around it, and somehow that made me lose my balance, and then I fell down, couldn't catch myself, and I fell into another mud puddle. That was fun. I laugh at it now. I got jabbed in my left thigh by a big pointed rock, which left a pretty good mark. It's not hurting right now. Probably is to the touch, but I'm just not going to touch it. I'm going to try not to, at least. And then another one that was really, really not fun, and that's I got jabbed by a big, strong stick that was just sticking out straight like this, right into my groin. Whoo, that was fun. Not. Wow. It was a day. You can't stay dry. Your feet cannot stay dry. It's so flooded and so deep of mud sometimes. You do all you can, but you're gonna get swallowed up by the mud for sure. So put some dry socks on today, which doesn't help at all because my shoes are soaked. So I think I'm just gonna have to get used to having wet feet the whole time in Maine. But anyway, I'm back on the trail now and it's time to start climbing. But first I'm taking this base layer off. It was breezy and chilly this morning. Not really too chilly, just cool. So I wanted to have this on. But now that I made that climb out of the shelter, which is probably 300 or 400 feet of elevation, I'm getting a little sweaty. So that's coming off, and it's time to head on the AT and north on the Mahoosic Trail. I just passed what seemed like a summit, but there's nothing on the map saying it is. I know I'm on Mount Carlo right now, but I guess this is not the summit, even though it appears to be, because there's nothing around higher than this. So I'm not really sure. I'll have to do some research on that and call it out later if it is, but definitely some good dust up here. And now it's starting to go down again in forest, so that might have been the summit of Mount Carlo, and for some reason it's just not showing on the maps. We shall see. My new hiking partner. Go ahead, lead the way. Oh, no, 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 there's no trail there. I believe I'm climbing that next. I've been just going up and then descending over a bunch of rocks and wet slabs and rain and swamp. Not rain, but rainwater. Oh my goodness, it is slow going today. Averaging 1.1 mile an hour so far. I'm still early in the day, but I don't expect that to pick up a whole awful lot today because, well, it's just nasty. It's bogs everywhere, deep mud, slanted rocks that are wet, and then I'm going to get to the notch. And the notch, well, that's already supposed to be extremely slow because you're going up and over boulders all day, in case I haven't told you that. But it looks like I start climbing up now to this first summit. Oh, it's nice and windy, that's for sure. Beautiful in here though, even though it's very dark and dreary today. That's straight up. At least I got trees on both sides. Should be able to hold on to things as I'm going up. So in the last mile, I broke off my first piece of the shaft of my one and only remaining trekking pole. At least I still have that, so I can do this when I come to the bog boards, which, by the way, I just went through an alpine bog and every board was underwater. It was cold. It covered up to my ankles. It's the best I could do. Everything else was even worse. I was able to stay on boards that was up to my ankles and just poke along to see where the wood was. It's a slow go today, that wind, and it's chilly up top. This is gonna be a grind today for sure. I'm smiling on the inside, even if I'm not on the outside. I'm just looking up here to see how I'm gonna tackle this. It's straight up and it's a wet rock face. Fun times. But I got a mission, so let's get on it. It is so cold and windy up here. And these rocks aren't necessarily fun when they're soaked. Trying to make the best of it in my head, but they're not that fun. They're very windy. So first I climbed the part with the rebar that you just seen, and then it brings me up over here. Then I have to climb up this thing. Just enough footholds to be able to pull yourself up. And you get up here, and then you climb this ladder thing all the way up there, which some of the ladder rungs look like they've seen better days, so hopefully they hold. But that's one way of getting some elevation really quick. I'm telling you. Standing a little down from the summit of Goose Eye West. So you can see it's nasty. It's even nastier up there. Not even 300 yards up there, but it's nasty. Woo! Goose Eye West is in the bag. The first even remotely close to cruisy trail today. Yesterday there was a good portion to start out. There was a lot of incline, but it was like that old style incline where you're walking up dirt and roots and stuff. And then it became this swampy, a rocky mess everywhere. And thus where I am right now. Look at that. It's mud. Probably goes up to my waist. I was able to get around that one a little bit in the trees. But I sound like I'm complaining, and I might be, but I'm still in good spirits. It is annoying, though, that I can't get any traction here at all to get any good timing done on mileage today, but it might loosen up a little. I already know it's not going to. Okay, I gotta put the phone down for this one. Oh, it's just slippery rocks and mud everywhere. Oh, let's not mention the high wind. Oh, I just did. Standing on the Goose eye east. It is windy. A southbounder just came from the other direction and he said, man, that summit is nasty. It's gnarly. Like 70-mile-per-hour gusts. I can feel it. I don't know if you can hear me at all. Right there's the summit. I'm going to call it out now before I get up there because you won't be able to hear me at all. Unless you're having a little bit of wind or a little bit of tree. I just want to get up and over there as soon as I can. There's some pretty big gusts happening right now. But Goose Eye East is in the bag. That was gusty. It probably did touch 70 miles an hour. There was times I was pushing in like just to keep moving. Good thing it wasn't a really long summit face or summit rock face on the summit wide open like that. That would not have been fun. All right, continuing on the summit of Goose Eye North. Again, really windy and all socked in. Now the descent begins. I think there's still one more summit. There's a shelter before that, and I'm going to stop in there and eat some lunch and see if I want to go on today or save it for tomorrow, because it's pretty nasty out here. I'll figure it out, but right now the descent, Goose Eye North, is in the bag. Oh yeah, that looks fun. So I have just finished my shortest day ever, shortest amount of miles ever, and called it a day at the earliest time ever. And I'm perfectly fine with it. I went about 5 miles today, and it took about 5 hours. I stopped at this shelter to get some food and just kind of relax and see what I wanted to do next. Start talking to some other hikers that were kind of doing the same thing, I guess. A couple of them staying overnight, waiting for one of their friends to come in, and then a couple others passing through. More hikers today I've seen than I have the whole time I've been back out here. But basically it's up to 50, 70 mile per hour winds today. Brutal. Rain, cold. Last time I checked it was like 47 degrees. It's not supposed to be the way it is. It's stopped raining now, it's still windy. The problem is what's coming up is the Mahoosic Notch, and the rocks are just treacherous today, so slick and everything else. So I made an executive decision. I said, you know, I think I'm just going to stay here and try out what I can, get some good rest, start off really early in the morning. I'm ahead of schedule. I mean, there is no schedule, but for my next resupply, I can easily get there in the next day or two, so it's not imperative I need to get there today or tomorrow for food. At the end of the day, it's a hypothermia fear that I need to look out for, because I sweat a lot, obviously, and there's a lot of work that comes into Grafton, not Grafton, but Mahoosic Notch, and then right after that is a Mahoosic Arm, which is a 1,500-foot climb, very steep and tough, which would get me sweating quite a bit. And with the wind and the cold temperature the way it is, that would be ending my day there. That's where I was planning on going, is at the end of the Arm and that next shelter, which is literally just 4 or 5 miles away from here. So it wouldn't have been that much further, but it would have took 5 or 6 hours, and possibly more, because it is the slowest mile of the trail. And then you have that immediate climb right after. So I made the executive decision that I'm going to take a Nero in the shelter and eat a bunch of food and stay warm. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm talking to you in the outhouse right now, in the privy. But that's what I'm doing. So right now I'm right a mile away from the Mahoosic Notch. It's going to be the first thing I do in the morning, but it's already starting to clear up. Wind's still going, still cold, but in the morning it's supposed to be nice and sunny and mild. So mild meaning the 60s. So I'm going to take care of that in the morning, and tonight I'm just going to rest and relax and eat a bunch of food. my Nero on the trail. Everybody have a good night. Live life. See you in the morning.